Hi, and welcome back to Startup Stories, a podcast brought to you by the Nerd Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Daniel, and today I wanted to share a particularly special episode with you. Particularly special to me because for once I was on the other side of the microphone, being interviewed by my good friend Oliver about how we are producing this very podcast. Oliver is a founder himself, and him and his team were wondering whether it would make sense to launch a podcast to share their knowledge and experience with their customers and audience. He contacted me and agreed to record our conversation, where we covered topics like why should you start a podcast, how much time goes into the production of an episode, how do we distribute our podcast, what types of marketing works best for us, how do we focus on a niche to stand out from the crowd. Having this conversation with Oliver was so much fun, and I'm super excited to share it with you now. Enjoy!
Who?
Attention.
Be prepared. So, hello, my name is Oliver. I'm one of the founders of the company .Consulting. We are based in Switzerland. We are doing consulting in the area of organizational development and agile methods. And we do a lot of social media. We are huge fans of doing a lot of marketing, delivering content in our blog. And I'm a listener of Daniel's podcast. And I wanted to ask him some questions because for us it would be really interesting to maybe go also with a podcast, because I heard a lot that the audience is very cool and we can reach more people with our content. So I wanted to ask him some questions.
Well, I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah,
Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, I will just start with it. For me, it would be interesting. Why should actually a company start a podcast?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why you should start a podcast. Of course, there's a lot of reasons why not as well. But I feel the reasons for are very interesting. First of all, podcast is a medium that's growing, so there's more and more listeners jumping to podcasts. And one reason I see is that it's way more time efficient to consume the content compared to video or text. So if you imagine text and video, you need to watch the content, you need to be focused on the screen. And with audio, you can be on the bus, you can be driving even. So there's a lot more situations that people can listen to you, and it requires less attention. So that's something that I, as a podcast listener myself, really, really like about podcasts. And I see it also other people telling me that. Also, it's easier to produce consistently than blogs and videos. I mean, just for our podcast, we started by producing videos and podcasts at the same time, and the video production took so much time that we decided, and the return was the thing with content. You need to be very consistent over a long period of time for it to show any interesting results. So you really need to think about how efficient it is and can you be consistent. And we just didn't manage to be consistent with video production, for example.
Okay.
Because the cutting of the video and the adding of the audio and then a 45-minute video. With video, you're kind of restricted to length because people like to watch short video. So you need to cut the video a lot. So it's a lot of work. And with podcasts, podcast is a medium where you can share long content. So you can do it with way less work. Plus, also, I mean, there's a lot of different other positive things. I mean, we interview people, so we align ourselves with these people, with the brands of these people. If we interview entrepreneurs, and they share it in their networks, people associate us with them, and you build a personal connection because in these interview formats for us, they're not scripted. We prepare questions, but they're really natural. So your audience gets to know you from another angle, from a more personal angle. And if you can keep up producing a podcast for once a week,
Mhm.
then you have one additional touch point with your audience per week, which which more touch points. The more touch points, the better.
Okay. Because I'm a huge fan of one of these German sales trainers. He's called Dirk Kräuter. And I'm
Mhm.
really listening to a lot of his podcasts. And he's doing actually what you did when you started. He's just recording the videos, and afterwards he just takes the audio from the videos. So the podcast, I would say, is a bit earlier and then followed by the video. But I just saw and analyzed a bit his topics and how he does it. And I actually see if someone is a bit famous of his interview partners, he will actually focus more on the YouTube content.
Mm.
So maybe his reach is bigger.
Yeah,
But I have no clue how much of an investment he needs to take because he now has about 50 employees. So I would say this will be a professional company doing all his video editing. So he's not touched by the time actually. He just needs to
exactly.
spend a bit more money.
Definitely. If you can, of course, take one piece of content video and repurpose it as much as you can. Create a podcast, cut 20 videos out of it, cut Instagram format videos out of it. You
Mhm.
reuse the content as much as you can, but it's a lot of work. And so for us, we were two people working on another startup. We didn't have the time. And
Okay.
I would say if you want to start something like that, and I mean, the most important thing is to be consistent and persistent. So the if you post once a week for a year, after a year you'll see results that are more motivating.
Mhm.
So you need to have that marathon mentality, and you do have a business to run on the side. So podcasting is not your main thing, how you make money. So for us, it was really about being lean, and we cut the video production out pretty fast after the first two episodes.
Yeah, because we experienced the same marathon mindset because we started blogging 2 times a week.
Mm,
And this is really hard to get all the content together,
yeah,
to review it, then pass it to someone who is just reading through and correcting all the mistakes, then styling it. So I know this from the blog side,
it's a
and
lot of
it's
work.
yeah. So for me, it would be interesting to talk a bit about the technical side of doing podcasts because this is something which we do the same as you do. We need to run our business, and the podcast production would be like a huge side project. So it would be interesting for me, how much time do you invest in an episode
Mm.
after recording it? So the recording is as much as it takes, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. But what do you invest in the post production?
Yeah. So as I said, that has changed over time. So in the beginning and until quite recently, I did the editing of the audio, which means cutting out long pauses, cutting out the M's, for example, that I do a lot, filling words, and really trying to make the audio as fast as possible, and as fast as that it still sounds nice. At the same time, I was transcribing it to text, not word by word, but the main points, so that
Mhm.
I could afterwards write the show notes. It's called what you see in the podcast apps. A short intro. What are the main points of the podcast, and maybe some other links, and then my partner would write up, based on 2 pages that I wrote down, would write up a blog post, and that all in all would be around 4 to 5 hours for two people. So yeah, so that's a lot of time. And now, so of course we're learning. what we've decided now is that we won't edit the audio anymore. Just
Yeah.
minimally, if there's a 10-second break, I will cut it out. What do we do? We'll focus on how we ask the questions, on having less pauses, on using less filling words. So these are things you can change on yourself to improve the general the interview. Then
Mm-hmm.
the transcription and creating the show notes and the blog post, um, I've I've delegated that, you could say, to a freelancer
Mm-hmm.
that does that, exactly that. So you can find people like that on Fiverr.com or Upwork or freelancer.com. I don't know if that still exists. And so I don't do any of that anymore. I upload the episode, and that person creates the show notes and the blog post. So we
Mm-hmm.
just started with that, and you have to calculate some time in for feedback, and because that person doesn't know exactly how you want it. So we're still working on that, but I'm saving a lot of time with that. And then what I'm just doing is doing the intro and the outro. So I do a short 1-2 minute intro, what the episode is about, who the founder is, and an outro. Um, Pointing out other links or resources that might be useful for the listener, and then these
Mm-hmm.
minor adjustments to the blog post. And we just started with that. It's been 2 episodes, and I think we got it down to around 1 hour of work for 2 people. So from 4 to 5 hours to 1 hour.
Okay. Yeah, that would be, uh, yeah, reasonable time to invest, because if you listen to a lot of podcasts, people always focus on that the podcast is something raw.
Yeah.
So you're not cutting it. I think one of the examples was that someone is just explaining a topic, and then you hear just a doorbell ringing, and someone is entering the room with the breakfast and explaining what the breakfast is all
Yeah.
about. Then he leaves. So I think people expect these situations in a podcast, or maybe a cat jumps on the microphone and you have to laugh. So I would minimally edit them. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And yeah. You see more and more the trend also in for example, Facebook advertising,
Hmm.
videos that are, look raw and have been, shot with an iPhone,
Yeah.
and that have
Yeah. So
mistakes, or the
that's
audio
what
is not perfect, that these
I
perform way
just read
better
about and heard
than
a lot
these,
about when I
perfect
listen to
videos
podcasts.
produced
And
by
for me, it's
by
always a
agent
question.
yeah
I'm a huge
agencies.
Apple fanboy,
So
so
the raw
I'm
format is
listening to
definitely an argument
podcasts.
for
I've
not
got
editing the
an Apple
audio.
Watch. When I go for a run, I now listen to Apple Podcasts. But there are a lot of people not listening to the Apple
Yeah.
platform. So for me, it's always a question. I saw other interviews distributing these podcasts over multiple platforms. Do it the same, and how you do this distribution to keep the workload really low.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the distribution to the different platforms is very
Mhm.
easy. Um, what you do need is a host, so a company that has servers somewhere where you can upload your audio file that you need. You can We use Libsyn, that's Libsyn, and you can use Anchor.fm as well. And these hosts, or you upload a link, and
Okay.
that creates an RSS link, and you can connect that link to Apple Podcasts, to what is it, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, all the different apps that are out there to
Okay.
listen to
So you have
podcasts,
one
and you do that
source
once.
hosted by some
and
sort
then
of
those
website,
platforms
and
will
from
regularly,
there it's
call on
just
that link and see
distributed
if there's
to
a
all
new
the
episode,
platforms.
and
So
so it
you
will
don't have to
automatically
upload
be
it on each and every
updated on every
platform.
platform.
It's actually just a link to your host. Okay. Okay.
Exactly. No, no, no.
Okay.
That would
And
be
you need to paste the show notes somewhere, I would guess.
exactly. Yeah. And if you use Anchor.fm, they even do that automatically.
Mhm.
Everything. So you just record the audio, you upload it,
Okay.
and then
Yeah, so that
it's everywhere.
sounds easy. I was thinking of, oh my God, you maybe need another freelancer who is just
Right,
distributing
right. You
it
paste the show
on
notes
different
there on your
platforms
host,
or
and
writing
these
different
are
show
all
notes, but
saved,
that sounds really easy
within
to
that
me.
link.
And another question, if you just listen to a lot of podcasts, each and every podcast has a nice intro. So you hear some sort of music, then you hear a short introduction.
Yeah,
You
it
have
is.
this for your podcast. So my question is, should you invest in a really good intro, or
Hmm.
is it okay just to download some free music and talk
Hmm.
a little bit to it? What's your opinion on this?
I think what will differentiate your podcast, and make it memorable is not the intro, but the content and the questions that you ask. So, of course, you shouldn't have a shitty intro. But for example, we just bought a melody online for I think 20 bucks,
Hmm.
that we liked. We thought, okay, what do we want the atmosphere to be? We wanted it to be engaging with a little bit of beat, and we put that on, and we didn't even mix in any special effects or anything. I did
Hmm.
search a lot for special effects online, and then I tried to put something together, but it's more work. If you think about the work you put in, and what you get out of it, it's not because of that people will return to listen to your episodes. So my philosophy is to keep it really, really lean and simple,
Okay.
and
Because if
buy
I'm
a melody
thinking
online,
of the intros of all the
or
podcasts I'm
download one that
listening
you can
to,
use for
just
free,
one comes into my
and then
mind. He's one of the guys
yeah, and
called
then put
Calvin
more work
Hollywood.
into
He's actually a
preparing
photographer,
preparing each interview.
and he has a really special intro with a voice talking about his keywords like photographer, Instagrammer, and a nice melody in the background. And this is
Hmm.
somehow catchy, really catchy. So that's the reason why I was thinking of maybe hiring someone on Fiverr or another freelance platform to do something
Yeah,
cool. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. Mm.
okay.
You can do that. I checked that out as well, and I found I can't remember the name of it, but I found a website that does exactly that. It just
Okay.
does intros and for podcasts, and it's really nice. You can
Okay,
choose
it
the voice,
sounds
male,
nice. Maybe I have
female,
to think
high,
of,
low, and
or
and
just Google
melodies
it
and special
afterwards.
effects and so on.
And
So,
for
and
me,
it's
it's
not that
always a
expensive.
question of how
So probably
much
for 100 bucks
content you should put
you could
into
buy an
one
intro like that.
episode, and that's resulting in a podcast length, because I'm listening to different
Yeah.
types of podcasts. And sometimes I see podcasts that are like 90 minutes. This is really
Mhm.
huge, and it's difficult to follow sometimes. And then I'm following other podcasts that are like 3 minutes.
Mm.
They are like more just to give you some impulses and maybe start with a good mood into the week. So, w- how do
Mm.
you think of is a good length for a podcast?
Yeah. Mm.
Hmm.
That really depends on what you want to share on that episode. Um, I mean, you definitely are more free to create long form content than with video or blog because it's way easier to consume
Yeah, I would
a 1 hour
think we would
podcast
keep maybe
episode than a
to
1 hour
same
video
things we do on our
or
blog.
a 10,000
We're
word
blogging a lot
blog.
on our
What would
experience
you do? You have any
regarding
ideas what
IT projects
type of content you would
or
like
how
to
you
share?
can push your organization to be a leaner, a more agile organization. And if we are doing some trainings, we do reviews from the trainings. So, how it was, what was the training all about? So, especially for our customers, or maybe people who are not our customers yet, but maybe in the future. So they get a lot of free content. They can maybe improve on their
Mm,
business life and business projects through our content. So this would be something similar to not go into this interview direction, maybe just really trying to deliver some content of the blogs we do actually.
mm, mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Personally, I would. It's for me. It's a bit of a mix of what you want to convey in terms of content, and also
Hmm.
understanding what your customers like and want. So you say you already have customers. I would try to figure out the a good length for your episodes by just starting out, um, trying to always try to cut out anything that's not important, of course, and then just put that out and get feedback from those customers. I mean, if they're already customers, it's going to be easier for you to talk to them and share that episode and get them talking about it and give you
Hmm.
feedback on the length. Um, for us, for example, we go into the interview and we tell the guests that it usually takes about an hour, and it can go from 35 minutes to an hour and 10 minutes. We've had very different types of guests. Some go into more detail, some are shorter, and we we kind of let it go where it goes.
Hmm.
If we feel like there's a super interesting topic that we want to know more about in the interview, we won't not ask the questions because it's way more valuable to have that than to cut the interview short, 10 minutes. um, so yeah, it's a bit flexible. I don't know if there is a perfect length for a podcast.
Hmm.
It really also depends, yeah, on what you want to convey. For us, 1 hour is pretty good to go to a level of questions with the founders that other media outlets don't go, and that really
Okay.
provide value to our listeners. But if you can do the same, if you say we want to
Yeah.
talk about an event we had
Yeah.
or a workshop, then you could really go super short. You could go, these are the three results, and that's why that's important, or I don't know.
Yeah,
But there,
because it
it's
would
like a
be
product,
nice for
right? This
us to
content,
really
this episode.
reuse our
I would really
content
try to
multiple
talk to.
times.
I mean,
So
if you
as you
can talk
do,
to your
you,
existing
as I
customers, that's
understood,
a
you
huge advantage,
first do the podcast and
and try to figure
afterwards
out
you
what
derive
is
a
good
blog
for them.
from it. And in our case, we now have a lot of blogs. So it would be the other way around. So we would pick a blog and actually talk about the content of the blog, or
Yes.
maybe extend it a little bit by our own opinion. So we could use the
Mm.
blog as the base of at least, I would say, the first 40 or 50 of our podcasts. Yeah. because I know
Hmm.
people they are do it the same, and I'm really impressed because they started with a podcast, they did it. Afterwards, they just took all the audio
Yeah, that's
files,
amazing.
gave them to a freelancer. They just wrote it down, and then they released a book. And the book was about, I would say, 500 pages. And first you see this book, you're like, oh my god, you're like a writer, or what have you
Mm.
done? And then you hear opinions like, oh my god, he's written a really huge book. And one friend of mine was just buying this book, and then he was like, I'm listening to his podcast of this guy, and it's just word by word all the podcasts. And this was the first time I was like, oh my god, this clever and really smart guy, why do you need to have like multiple content you do? You can actually do the content once and then just derive a book from it. So wow, okay, smart, maybe something for you. Yeah, if you have, I don't know, 50 episodes or something, you could really just, yeah, print it as a book.
Exactly.
You never know.
Mm.
Yeah, the first book you have would be
Yeah, well, think
actually
about it.
an
We have
easy
20
piece to
episodes,
do.
so
So you could just give the work to someone else. So yeah, that's something I'm really thinking
that
of
will be
maybe
my
for our
first book.
company. Because if we do our blogs, we always need to post them on
Exactly.
social media because we did a few experiments. If
Written
we
by
don't push it on
someone in the
social
Philippines.
media, we just have not that much
Yeah.
visitors for our blog. So, how is this for the podcasts? Is it really important
Mm.
to advertise the episodes on social media? Or is it now that you get really organic hits by just doing it on the
Yeah.
podcast
Sure.
platforms? Hmm.
I would say it's as important as doing it for your website, as doing SEO for your website. The build it and they will come doesn't apply in this case either. Um, so of course you can optimize your keywords on your show notes and your blog posts, but that also is a very long term strategy that will pay off when you get a name that that people know and they search for you or they search for terms that you rank for. But distribution is super important. So important, in
Okay.
fact, that so we're two people, and we've just a couple of weeks ago decided that I will continue producing the episodes, and Michelle, my partner, will fully focus on the distribution. Um, which for
Okay.
us, as you know,
So if you
we're
don't
it's not
push
a business. We're not making
via
any money,
social
so we're
media, you
we're
just don't
using
get any
free
downloads, or
free
at
channels,
least much less downloads
also
than you
social
would
media,
get.
of course. But I would say
Okay.
it's as important.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
E- exactly, exactly. And I mean, social media is just one channel. We're for
Mhm.
example, look, I mean, we have that format where we interview people, so that helps us on social media. We can tag them; they can share our content. But we're also talking to other communities that are interested in our content, which you could also think about. Your content is not not just for your existing customers, but for other people, and you could think about where are these people gathering now. um, so where can I find them? And for us, it's for example through accelerators and incubators. um, they can offer their
Okay.
startups in their
Yeah. So that's
batches. They can offer them
a nice
exposure
thing
through our
to
podcast,
exchange your
and they
users or
in
your
exchange
audience,
will
so that
share
you have
our
really high
podcast or
reach.
that podcast
Okay.
episode with their
And
email
how did you
subscribers, for example.
choose your topics? So how do you focus that people don't say, "Oh my God, you're just
Exactly.
another entrepreneur podcast"? You have
Yeah.
some USP where you really try to focus on, or how do you choose your topics?
Yeah, I mean, it started with the wish of us. We wanted to open up the black box that is entrepreneurship and help and inspire more people to start their own startup, or just do the first step in trying to realize the idea they have or the many ideas they have. And for us, yeah, entrepreneurship was and still is this black box.
Hmm.
You see Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and so on, and it these types of content that are very successful usually show successful people and how they achieved success, and that's what everybody sees. And where we try to be different, is that we believe that this only demotivates listeners into thinking they're not that special, as Steve Jobs, for example. And this is why we go for entrepreneurs that basically nobody knows yet, or the masses don't know, that are at the start of their journey, that haven't been seen online that much, that haven't been on many podcasts. And this is quite an interesting group for us because big media outlets aren't interested in them yet. But their content is
Hmm.
so interesting for our target audience, which are people who don't know anything about entrepreneurship but have ideas and want to start. So they're really at the very very beginning of the journey. And so giving them content from people that are two steps further is way more useful than content from super successful
Okay.
entrepreneurs in
And
our
what's the
mind.
feedback you get if
So that's what we
people are
try to,
listening to
this
your
this niche of,
episodes?
at the very very beginning of the journey, of the startup journey. That's where we go, and others don't at the moment. So we've gotten different types of feedback. We've
Hmm.
gotten feedback, um, of some people saying, "Oh, why don't you focus on a specific topic like marketing or finance? And why do you focus on a stage, in the startup journey?" So
Okay.
that was something we had to think about. And our argument for that, or for ourselves, is that there are so many marketing and finance and topic specific podcasts out there, that we wouldn't add any value or any more value that there already is. But others tell us that they really like our episodes because they really get a glimpse of what it really means to be an entrepreneur, in different industries, because we interview different founders from different startups, and it really demystifies this entrepreneurship, and gives them the feeling, oh, these people in these interviews, they're normal people. Some went to the same university as me, and now they're doing that, so maybe I can do it. And plus they learn a lot, because during the interviews we explain, methods that
Hmm.
are mentioned, lean startup, or design thinking, or other buzzwords that are being used in the startup um, environment, and tools, and so on. So they learn a lot as well. um, so we at the beginning, we were thinking, what's our podcast going to give the
Okay.
listener? And if you want to be successful, it needs to be a, a mix of entertaining, um, and and um, and it has to teach you something. So you need to be a better person after that episode. You need to have learned
Hmm.
something, and we try
And
to
if we
be
just talk
a
maybe
bit
a
of a
bit
mix.
about numbers,
Teach
with
the
how many
through
listeners you
those stories,
started
people learn a
actually,
lot.
and
We try to
to
keep it
which
light
number of
and kind of be
listeners
funny,
you have
and yeah.
reached now.
Hmm. Hmm. So in the podcast world, I had to find that out. You can't
Okay.
really know. They don't. These tools or the host where you have your analytics. They don't show you the number of listeners. They just show you the
Okay.
number of downloads. So no subscribers, but downloads. And we started. I'm just checking out my uh, the stats to tell you exactly. So we. Oh wait, view all the stats. I think it's not showing all of them. So if we go,
Mm-hmm.
let me see. So it doesn't show me everything because we started in July and it's just showing me until October. But it shows you you can look at per day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very, as I said, it's a very long process. So you have days without any downloads, and you have a lot of days, with between 0 and 10 downloads.
Okay.
And then when you publish an episode and we publish a post on LinkedIn and we tag people, then we can
Okay.
get up to 40 downloads in one day. And it really goes up and down and up and down, and you see a very slow trend upwards, but you see it. So we've been on it. Yeah, what was it, August? Yeah, 5 months now.
Okay.
And we actually had a 1 month break. um but if I show you, so we're
Oh wow.
almost at 1,000 downloads now in total, and we have around, in last month we had 250 downloads, and we're growing. Our goal is to grow with 50% per month. So next month
Okay.
I think
So the only KPI
we
you
have
are able to
115
track
downloads, and
is
a
the
third
number
of the
of
month has
downloads
gone by,
at the
so we'll
moment.
have over 300. The goal is to have around 380 downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can also track reviews,
Yeah,
on
sure.
the Apple or on any podcast app. You can ask for reviews. Um, we have a couple of reviews, and you obviously, what the first thing you do is you ask friends to listen to it and give a review. Um, that just gives you, a little number of reviews. So in the future, we'll definitely try to improve that. That doesn't lead to more downloads, but or yeah, you can't really
Mm-hmm.
track it. It doesn't
Yeah,
push you
so
more
you
on the
have a
on the
number and see,
podcast
ah,
app,
okay,
further up
it's
or
good
anything.
rated, so
It's just
this
a proof of quality
is
when
worth
new
to listen to
people
actually.
find your podcast,
Have you ever tracked your
and it
ranking
helps
in a
convert.
podcast group, maybe? Because a lot of people are always telling that they are number one in the
Yeah. So
economics ranking of Apple Podcasts. Okay. Yeah.
no, I haven't. We haven't looked into it at all, actually. We're still learning, which is good. which is very good. No, we haven't done that, but I don't expect us to be very high yet because we're pretty young. Um, but I'll definitely check that out. For reviews, something that I read up on and maybe is interesting for you. There's
Mhm.
a lot of podcasts just asking for a review. Hey, if you like us, please leave a review. Most people don't leave a review because what are they getting in return? Nothing. And so, what works better if you can uh, link that review to some kind of uh,
Mhm.
a reward, or if you can say, hey, if you leave a review, we'll send you that piece of content or something
Yeah.
exclusive, you know something that gives value to the person. So for investing 2 minutes of their time, they get something back, and that works much better. So we're working on developing these, you can call them
Mhm.
lead magnets for
Yeah,
reviews, or
That sounds good, because
So we're working
otherwise
on
people are
developing
like,
something
why should I leave them a
that is
review?
interesting
I'm
for
not
people,
a friend of
and
them.
that
So,
that
yeah.
we might use for that.
All right. So I would say that's really much and really cool information I got from you. And we
Yeah, there's
really
no
need
reason.
to
Yeah.
think about how we will do this in the future. Maybe do a small strategy. Where do we publish the content first? And how can we derive maybe a podcast of it? We also thought about videos. And last but not least, I would say the language is essential in
Hmm.
the end. So in our case, I would say it's more a German oriented
Yeah.
community we want to reach. But even though you need to speak high German as a Swiss guy, because if you're speaking Swiss German, then your audience just shrinks maybe to just
Yeah.
10%. And it's the same in the podcast. So if you're
Yeah.
speaking high German as a Swiss, you could actually reach Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. So the audience should be a bit
Yeah.
broader than.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. So yeah, that's also one criticism we got. Why are you doing it in English? For us, it's really, we want to go
Yeah,
to the whole of
that
Europe
sounds
and
feasible actually,
create content
because
for
our
for
audience and
European for
community
future
should be
European
German
entrepreneurs. So
speaking. If they
that's
are
why we
English
stick to English.
speaking, it's okay. But we are focusing mainly on
Yeah.
Swiss customers. And if we could gain maybe some customers from around the border,
Mm.
it would be also fine. So I think we would stick to German in this case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's I would definitely recommend
Okay.
for you guys to start a podcast, and I would not make it too much of a big, you know, project. You can go very lean. I mean, we're using this app now that
Hmm.
you're somewhere totally different, and I'm in the mountains, and we're recording, and you
Okay.
can delegate most of the work, and really go lean, and buy a cheap audio, and have a podcast set up in a week.
Complain or yeah.
So I don't think
Yeah.
you
So
need to
maybe we
invest
should
a lot,
just
and you can
start
always
in
change
reading
things.
through our
If you don't like
blog
your
and
intro,
maybe
you
pick
can always change it, and it's
one or
fine, and
two cool blog
nobody will
posts and just
hunt you for it.
talk about them. And this should be like the MVP of starting a podcast. And then we just look what happens. So this should be a feasible start, and
Yeah,
maybe a easy start too,
experiment.
because we love to just not talk about
Yeah,
things, we love to do things. So doing is our favor. So this could be a cool start. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The only important thing is that
Yeah.
you're consistent. So if you do 2 weeks and then you do nothing for a month, then it, you could have just done nothing and saved and saved that time. So it's quite a commitment for just from the length of it. We need to do this for at least a year,
Yeah. Yeah,
to see
because
some
we are
results. Are we ready to do that?
now
I think that's the most
10
important
people
question.
in
And
our
if
company.
everyone's ready to do
So
that, then you
if we
can work
just
on
distribute
optimizing the
the
time you
work
invest.
and recording a little bit,
And you can
each
really,
of
yeah.
them could actually record a podcast. If we do it
Mm,
every second week, this would be around 25-ish podcasts. So each and every one would need to do two and a half. So that's actually easy, I would say. So we should really.
yeah, 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 definitely. And Yeah, I think, I mean, another way, just share what we're doing, and maybe it helps you. Um, so what we're doing now is we visit the founders individually in their offices, and this takes a lot of time. So it takes, maybe half an hour to an hour to go there, and then the same back, and then the hour being there. So we also thought, okay, how can we reduce this? And so there's two options: doing it like we do it now, remotely, which appears to be super efficient, and good quality. And the
Hmm.
other thing is, what we're going to try out is to just set a date every 2 weeks, reserve a room somewhere, and invite the people to come to us, and we record, hopefully 5 to 6 episodes in one day, and that's it. We're done for the month.
Yeah. So this would be like the episode day. So you're just doing a lot of work focusing on one day.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, for you, you have all the content in your blog posts. You can just sit down one day, two people or whoever, and then just record, and then you could have the 50 episodes, or 25, in a day, and then you you let someone else transcribe it, uh, and that's it.
And do the show notes and
Yep,
selecting a hoster and do the intro and the outro, and that's it.
exactly.
So we are fine. Yeah. Yeah. I'm really motivated, I must say. I thought it's much more work. So I was a little bit scared that we just put more work on our shoulders. But
Yeah,
as I see now, actually, we could do it really lean
yeah,
and quick. So we don't need to talk a lot. We can just start doing it, actually.
exactly. I mean, there's always the planning fallacy. We always think we will do something in an hour, and then it takes 2 hours. But I mean, you're starting off a good point already. And you'll learn with that after 1 month, you'll be way more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are huge fans of really doing things and then review it and then decide. Because
Yeah,
otherwise, you're just assuming things that, yeah, this will not work because of this and that. But if you
exactly.
never tried, it's totally useless. So we always try things first, then review it, and then decide what to do. This is
Best
how.
attitude. Super.
Yeah.
I wish more
So
people did that.
thank you very much. It was a
Thank
nice
you.
interview the other way around.
Yeah, I'm on the other side this time.
Yeah, so I hope we reach a lot of people who maybe try to do a podcast on their own. So we could
Definitely.
answer their questions as you answered mine. So that would
Yeah, I
be,
mean, it's a huge time saver for me. There's other people, interested in that topic, and I'm really glad you agreed to do this recording, because it saves a ton of time for me. I can just share that content with those people, and it's a lot of value to them as well, for you to have prepared all these questions, and so thank you as well.
yeah, you're welcome. And you can just link my company in the show notes, and then we are just fine.
All right. I will do that. I will do that.
So each and everyone can reach the blog I'm talking about. So
Exactly.
we get
Exactly.
some.
Now they're curious. Now they're
Yeah, now
curious.
they're really curious. It's like, oh my god, they do a lot of blogging. What is this all about? So yeah,
Definitely, they'll definitely check it out.
nice. Okay,
All right.
so thank you and
Thank you.
goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Startup Stories. I hope you got some value out of this one. I know I did. Being on the other side of the microphone exposes me to speak in front of more people and share my thoughts, which is always a good exercise for me. If you want to ask me more questions, I have just launched a new WhatsApp group where I answer each and every question people ask me and share content I don't usually share on other channels. Just click on the link in the episode description to join. Stay nerdy and see you next week.